The movie begins with the protagonist, Virgil, traveling by train. Virgil is a wanderer, a man without roots, drifting from place to place in search of something more. This time, a new occupation. He's heard whispers of a place deep in the desert, a hidden gold dig site known as the Compound. And with little more than hope and resolve, he sets his course toward it. After hours on the train, he finally arrives in a dry, sun-bleached town, little more than a scattering of buildings lost in the dust. He asks around, trying to find a way to the compound, and is eventually directed to someone who might help him, a man at a nearby gas station who's said to give rides out there. He finally reaches the gas station, a small, crumbling structure standing alone against the horizon. He steps inside, the door creaking on its hinges, and finds a man behind the counter. Virgil begins to ask questions about the compound, about a ride, about anything that might get him closer. But the man just stands there, unmoving. His face is blank, his eyes distant. He doesn't respond, doesn't blink, and doesn't shift. No matter how many questions Virgil throws his way, the man remains frozen in his silence.
I'm supposed to meet a man here.
Virgil patiently asks the guy more questions, and the guy finally answers one of them by showing him where the bathroom is. The bathroom looked very old and filthy, but he had no choice but to use it. While he is inside, a man asks him if he is the one going to the compound. He confirms that he is, and washes up before leaving for his big journey. The man tells him not to waste his water and to get going because they're starting their journey soon.
Don't waste water.
When they get to the vehicle and start driving, the man tells him he will be paying an extra $100 for the gas and $20 for the water. Virgil tells him he thought gas was included in the $200 he agreed to pay before. The man tells him he will return if he doesn't agree with the arrangement, but Virgil agrees to pay the additional amount. The driver tells him he thought the company he is heading to told him about the details of the payment. Virgil further clarifies, saying they only told him that there would be a man that would take him there for $200. Virgil didn't mind paying extra as long as he got there safe and sound. In the car, Virgil tries to open the car, but the man stops him, saying it will blow up the engine. They continue their journey in the desert, and they stop to change a tire. The driver, Keith, doesn't think Virgil is strong, and he even makes fun of his way of changing a tire. They continue driving through the desert in the middle of nowhere, but they eventually had to stop because they couldn't travel at night. During the night, while they're sitting near the fire, Keith starts asking Virgil about himself. He tells him he is from the West, and Keith guesses he is relocating to a different place because of the instability happening in the West. Keith then asks him what happened to his face. Virgil is a quiet and reserved person, so he doesn't appreciate Keith's chatting session. He keeps to himself, avoiding eye contact, answering only when necessary, and letting the silence speak for him. But Keith continues talking, unaffected by the lack of response, casually threw out more questions and thoughts. He tells him he is just trying to make a conversation, since there isn't much they can do, and it's just the two of them. The fire crackles between them, its light casting moving shadows on their faces, but the distance remains. Despite the quiet night and the open desert around them, the space between them feels closed off, each man locked in his thoughts. He continues asking if he doesn't have someone worth staying for in the West, and Virgil tells him there's no one. They come to a common ground by stating they're both lonely, and they have been lonely for a long time. Keith proceeds with his questions and asks him why he is going to the compound, because it is a strange place to be heading to. Virgil tells him he is going there for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, takes out a brochure from his pocket and shows it to him.
Once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
The brochure guarantees in just 4 days you will be a brand new person after working at the gold dig site. Keith laughs at what he reads on the brochure. He thinks advertisements like this are a big scam and tells him not to get his hopes up, thinking he will achieve a lot in 4 days because these companies say anything to get people like Virgil working for them. Virgil tells him the place he comes from isn't a picnic. Keith tells him not to be desperate. Even though he thinks the place he comes from is bad, the place he is going to might be worse. Keith says the hours and the hard work he has to endure might be a lot, but Virgil is determined and doesn't mind hard work if it means his life will change. He sits with quiet resolve, focused on the path ahead and what it could mean for him. He knows it won't be easy, but he's willing to take that risk. Keith gives him his final words of advice, saying he will not last long in that environment because of his looks and quiet nature. The people there are tough, and it may be hard for him to fit in. He tells him he could easily become a target, someone the others might try to break or push around. But Virgil firmly tells him he will be able to handle what's coming his way no matter what and not look back. He doesn't waver or second-guess himself. He is ready to move forward, whatever it takes. The next morning, they start their journey, and this time, Virgil is the one driving. He tries opening the AC, and when he sees that it's working, he opens it up. It works for a few seconds, and then the car slows down and the engine crashes. Keith wakes up from the sound the car is making and angrily tells him to stop the car.
Pull the over!
They get out of the car and the man screams at Virgil for turning the AC up when he strictly told him not to. Virgil apologizes for what he has done and walks away to take a piss. Where he notices something shiny, he rubs the dust off the shiny rock and calls Keith to come see it.
What is it?
When he asks him what it is, he tells him to come and see it for himself. After taking a look at it, Keith isn't sure whether it is real gold or just a shiny rock. He then pulls out a lighter from his pocket and tells Virgil that if it burns black, it isn't gold before starting to burn it. He then lights up the lighter and puts it above the rock. The rock didn't burn black, which means it is gold.
That's fucking gold.
Both Virgil and Keith stare at the stone in shock, frozen in place as the weight of the discovery sinks in. The sun beats down on their backs, but neither of them moves for a long moment, their eyes locked on the gleaming surface that hints at something far more valuable beneath. After a while, the silence breaks as they begin digging around the area, driven by adrenaline and disbelief. Their hands move quickly, shovels cutting into the dry earth, dust rising around them as the ground slowly gives way to something massive.
Help me here again. Get wiggle out of this thing.
They uncover a huge gold nugget, far larger than either of them anticipated. Its size leaves them speechless, the sheer weight of its worth overwhelming. But their excitement is quickly met with confusion. They have no idea how they're going to carry it. They try pulling it by tying it to the car with thick rope, wrapping it tightly around the chunk of gold, and attaching it to the bumper. They get into the car and drive forward slowly, but the tires dig into the dirt, the engine straining, the gold refusing to move.
Rope it again!
They try it again, adjusting the angle, tightening the knots and giving it more power, but it still doesn't work. The gold won't budge. Frustration mixes with awe, but they don't stop. They keep digging, uncovering more and more, until the pile is larger than they ever imagined possible. The ground seems to keep giving as if they've stumbled upon a hidden treasure trove buried deep in the desert. But as the sun begins to lower behind the distant hills, the shadows stretch longer and the air starts to cool. Keith looks up at the darkening sky and suggests they stop for now. They'll need to collect firewood before sundown to keep the wild dogs away.
Good fire burning. They won't bother us.
He points to the scattered shrubs nearby and begins gathering what he can find. While Virgil quietly joins in, both of them aware that the night is coming fast, and with it, whatever else the desert may hold. They collected wood and they sat by the fire talking about their discovery, which means Virgil isn't going to the compound now that they have found a treasure that would instantly make them wealthy. Keith insists they celebrate because they found a pile of gold. They get up and dance happily at the thought of their future life here.
We just found a pile of gold! Come on, man! Get up!
Later that night, Keith suggests that one of them will have to get the excavator to get it out. When Virgil asks why, one of them, Keith, tells him it will be better if one of them stays here with the gold guarding it. Keith says he knows a place a couple of days' drive to the east that will have an excavator, but it will take 2 days to get there and 2 days back, plus 1 day to sort the excavator. So in total, 5 days. He tells Virgil that he will stay here and wait for him with the gold while he goes to the address he gives him and brings an excavator. After some thinking, Virgil suggests he stay here with the gold while Keith goes and brings the excavator since he knows where to get the excavator. Keith tells him he doesn't trust that he will be able to keep himself alive and well all those days, let alone guard the gold. His water and food intake also may not allow him to stay alert and well since he isn't used to this harsh environment. No matter how Keith tries to convince Virgil to go, he stands his ground and tells him he will be staying here.
I think I'll stay with the gold.
Keith finally gives up, and in the morning they start sharing their resources like water and food. Keith also gives him a satellite phone and tells him he will be calling to let him know his progress.
Keep this sap phone on you.
Before leaving, Keith tells Virgil everything will be okay, and when he returns, they will be richer than they have ever imagined. After Keith leaves, Virgil covers the gold with sand before building his temporary shelter for a few days. He then builds a tent for himself near a spot where he can see the gold up close. He remembered what Keith had said about the wild dogs in the night, so he gathered firewood to keep the wild animals away from him. He is there by himself in the middle of nowhere, but with a hope for a better future after this sacrifice. During the night, he eats his dinner and he sits in silence while he hears the sound of wild dogs barking and wild beasts howling from a distance. In the morning, he finds himself on the ground after falling asleep during the night. He tries to save water and not waste it all at once, so he doesn't wash his face or drink anything. The heat weighs on him, but he stays still, preserving his energy. Suddenly, he hears the phone ringing from a distance at the tent. He runs toward it, his heart quickening, but the ringing stops just before he can pick it up. He stands there for a moment, staring, then steps back outside. He sits under the harsh desert sun, motionless, sweat collecting on his brow. Time passes slowly. After a while, he decides to make himself useful and begins collecting wood for the night. As he scavenges across the sand, he comes across a broken piece of an old plane. Its metal frame is still intact enough to be used as shelter. He clears the space around it, deciding it will be where he sleeps tonight. He sits inside the body of the plane and decides to make some adjustments by taking some parts of the plane for his tent. He makes use of the parts he took from the plane and builds himself a decent shelter. His body, however, isn't used to the harsh climate, so he has some rashes on his body, but he is determined to survive this, so he keeps going. He carried the parts on his back and built his shelter to make it more comfortable. The sun starts to go down, which means he has to build a fire to protect himself. At this point, he is starting to get lonely and even starts talking to any living thing he has found. He sits by the gold, patiently waiting for Keith's arrival, which will take a couple of days from now.
Chunk of gold for your whole life.
He then starts pounding the gold, focused and determined, using all his strength to break through the surface. To his surprise, he's instantly able to break off a huge chunk. The weight of it is heavy in his hands, glimmering with promise. Without wasting time, he carries the gold back to his tent, the sun still beating down as he walks carefully across the sand. Once inside the tent, he sets the gold down and wipes the sweat from his face. Just then, the phone rings again. He picks it up quickly. This time, it's Keith. His voice comes through the line with tension. He says he has bad news. He might be taking longer than expected because the engine is overheating. It's not moving the way it should, and he doesn't want to risk damaging it further. Trying to stay optimistic, he tells Keith he was able to break off a huge chunk of gold, thinking the progress might ease the situation. But Keith isn't satisfied. His tone sharpens, unimpressed by the effort. He tells him that a chunk isn't good enough. They're not going to settle for a decent amount when they have a chance at taking it all. The line goes quiet for a moment before Keith reminds him they've come too far for half measures. During the night, he collects as much firewood as he can find, but the wild dogs surround him. Eventually, he can get rid of them because of the fire. It was then, in the morning, that he went to his shelter to take a nap. He is running out of food and water, and because of the dehydration, he is getting a headache in addition to the harsh climate. After that, he drinks most of the water he has to function properly and go about his day. While he is drinking water, he notices a snake coming towards him, but before he can kill it, it crawls away into the distance. He could have used the snake as food, but it escaped before he could get his hands on it. While trying to catch the snake, he accidentally spilled his water. He had less earlier on, and he has even less than that now. He eats what he has left and spends his days scavenging on the plane. While he is doing that, he sees someone walking towards him, so he hides inside the plane. The person walks towards him and stands beside the plane. It was a woman. She knocks on the window and sits in front of him, asking him if he was hiding from her.
Are you coming out then?
Virgil carries the chunk of gold and gets outside to where she is. She asks him what he is doing out here and offers him a snack and refreshment, but he refuses.
No.
One. They won't bite.
She continues asking him a series of questions because she is suspicious of what he is doing out here, starving and depriving himself of water when he can find water a few kilometers away. He grows nervous every time she asks him a question, which intensifies her curiosity even more. She walks towards his tent, trying to discover what he is hiding. Virgil offers her to stay in the plane while he walks to the tent, but she follows him to the tent.
Will you mind if I commandeer a little shite fire over there?
She keeps on asking him questions about where he is from, and he tells her he is going to the compound and he is waiting for his friend to pick him up on his way. She isn't convinced by his words. Virgil is not feeling well because it's been a while since he had water and the dehydration starts showing side effects like hallucination and headache. She walks towards his tent and tries to destroy it, but Virgil follows her and loses his temper when she starts rumbling about why he is here, and he kills her to keep the gold safe.
You city boy, now what a...
He buries her body in the desert after taking her useful resources from her pocket, including her water bottle. After he buries her, he notices a wild dog dragging her body away. He scares the dog away and drags her body to somewhere else. When he notices the wild dogs surrounding him, he decides to burn her body. He can feel his shred of humanity weathering away, but he has to do everything in his power to survive this. He sleeps inside the plane, where he is woken up by the phone ringing. Keith asks him if he is with the gold. He tells him he got the excavator, but he's a little slow because of it. Virgil is at his limit and losing hope at this point.
I got the excavator now, but the goddamn thing's slowing me down.
His body is getting weaker day by day. He doesn't know if he can survive here much longer. Keith tells him he can call this number if he wants to reach out to him and to stay strong because he is going as fast as he can. Virgil asks him how long it will take him until he fixes the hose, but Keith tells him he had fixed it before he left. While he's on the phone, he listens to the sound of a car passing by. He could have asked for help and left with his chunk of gold, but he remembers Keith's words and decides to stay. His body's getting weaker, but he keeps on collecting wood for the night. The wind has gotten so strong that a desert storm is created. Virgil runs to his tent, but the storm starts tearing apart the tent and all of his belongings, including his food and water bottle. Finally, he couldn't bear the wind, and he was cast away in the sand. He wakes up covered in sand and tries to find the gold's location now that everything is covered in sand. Moreover, he is stabbed around his stomach by a piece of wood during the storm. He continues trying to locate the gold, and he finally sees it and sits beside it. He removes the wood from his stomach and treats it using a fire. He falls asleep right there and wakes up to a woman hovering above him, pointing an arrow. She then offers him water. He isn't sure if he is dreaming or if it's real. She looks like the woman he killed days ago. It's getting darker when he hears the phone ringing in the distance. He crawls over and answers it, telling Keith there was a woman there, but now he can't see her. Keith immediately asks if she saw the gold. Virgil says she didn't and asks where Keith is. The woman appears in front of him and offers him food, but he refuses. She then offers to walk him to the waterhole, but he tells her to go alone. Before leaving, she asks if he's seen her sister. He stays silent, and without another word, she turns and walks away. He lies down for a while and the phone rings again. Keith tells him he is close and that he can see the smoke. When Virgil looks up, he notices he is surrounded by wild dogs that are eager to feast on him. The dogs start to attack him, and he tells Keith to hurry up. The dogs kept on attacking him furiously by surrounding him from left to right. Keith carefully watches what's going on from a hill, and it looks like he has been camping out here for a while and just waiting for this opportunity. He quietly watches the dogs attack Virgil to death while he's on the phone with him.
I protected it!
Virgil understood what was going on and that Keith had played him. He screams in anger, but he instantly accepts his fate when the dogs start biting a chunk of his body and drag him away. Keith watches everything and finally decides to drive to the scene while Virgil is in his last moments. He drives to the place with an excavator, determination in his eyes as he approaches the long-sought location. After scanning the surroundings and confirming he has finally located the gold, he brings the vehicle to a stop. The engine hums low as he sits for a moment, perhaps letting the weight of his discovery settle in. Then he opens the door and steps out of the car, his boots crunching against the dry ground. But just as he takes his first steps toward the treasure, a sharp whistling sound cuts through the silence. In an instant, an arrow pierces straight into his chest, striking him in the heart with deadly precision. Shock flashes across his face as his body stiffens. He staggers, eyes wide and confused, unable to comprehend what has happened. He drops to his knees, clutching at the arrow, blood seeping through his fingers. Within seconds, he collapses to the ground. his body motionless, his gaze empty, never realizing what or who struck him. It is as though the very earth he came to exploit has turned against him. In those final seconds, the weight of his past actions seems to hang in the air. Karma, silent and unforgiving, has found its moment. And just like that, everything ends, suddenly, cruelly, and without mercy, leaving behind only stillness and a lingering sense of tragedy.